Hello, welcome to the Always Be Comedy podcast. Our guest today is the great Tony Cantwell. Timo, I've interviewed quite a few across the Always Be Comedy podcast, and then I used to host a podcast for Balance magazine, and I interviewed quite a lot of Irish actors and comedians on that as well. Rachel Galvo would be another comedian example.
Yeah.
I guess there's the great Tony Cantwell, and it's that thing of within 5 minutes, how come we're not best friends with this person? Where has this person been all our lives?
Yeah.
The vibe. Tony Cantwell, I think, was another one where I went for a wee and WhatsApped Tim. This guy's sensational. We love Tony Cantwell.
That's exactly what happened. I remember the message coming in. Yeah, Tony Cantwell is a very, very funny man, and he is in Edinburgh this year from the 17th. So by the time this episode comes out, he is on at the Underbelly, Bristow Square at 10 p.m. and you gotta go. A very funny man. He did the first, and as it stands, only Irish series of Last One Laughing, and really was a real star of that show. Graham Norton approved. How's about that? A Graham Norton approved comedian. That's all you need.
It really is. I mean, you probably follow him on the socials already. He's also big on the socials.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't, he is at Tony Horror. You've probably seen his online sketches. You might have seen him live. This dude is the real deal. Also, I know it sounds like we're bigging him up, but there's also tremendous. This is what made him vibe with Always Be Comedy. Tremendous self-deprecation there as well. Tim and I saw Tony on a podcast.
Yeah.
And they'd booked Tony thinking that he was his brother, Andy. And Tony's self-deprecation, charm, lack of ego turned it into a really lovely moment. And he shared the clip, and it's fantastic. But that, Tim, that is a measure of the man.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing. That clip, look, the clip is quite an awkward watch. It could have been so much more awkward if he was, I'd say, rightfully offended by it and sort of took them to task on, I sort of can't believe you've booked. You don't know who you've booked. But he's a very sweet man, and he really could have sort of given them both barrels, and actually is very, very warm and very nice of him. And I think he really charmed us with that clip.
Oh, he really did. He talks us through what happened, because you might have seen the clip, and it's fantastic. Tony Cantwell has got that Eric Rushton thing where if there were hours in the day and we could do a weekly podcast with Tony Cantwell, we absolutely would. Check him out. Great comedian. And also, Tim, I know we always have a soft spot for these dudes. Funny bones.
Oh, man. Unbelievably funny. Yeah. Like, there's a bit between the interview chat and the format where I hope you don't mind saying you went for a wee, and I was just sort of left there chatting with him, and it happens a lot. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens sometimes, and sometimes it can be like, oh, I don't know what to say to this person. He was phenomenal. He was a great. He's very chatty. He's great.
He's he's your podcast dream. He really is. Yeah. And the person who set it up, who is a friend of Always Be Comedy, and they always like my feedback.
Yeah.
In terms of how someone was off mic as much as on, and I know that they were really chuffed that Tony's just. I'm bigging up Tony Cantwell. I mean, I may as well be bigging up Lionel Messi. This is a very well established comedian, but immensely likable. Timo, we would love Tony Cantwell to play Always Be Comedy, because that's what happened with Rachel Galvo. We met Rachel Galvo doing the podcast. The vibe was instantaneous. So hopefully we get Tony Cantwell down to Always Be Comedy. And also in the coming weeks and months, Tim, that was like a Trojan horse.
Gorgeous work.
Thanks very much, Timo. Have you seen the numbers that the Odyssey is doing?
Oh, like outrageous!
It's insane. Is it the biggest IMAX? I think it's the biggest IMAX film ever, and I think it's now Christopher Nolan's biggest movie ever. I believe.
Is it? Oh my god!
I think it's jumped Dark Knight Rises.
Wow! Holy crap!
It sounds like I read things like Variety and The Hollywood Reporter just for fun. You are correct. Right. So tell you what, Timo, we've got 24th of August, Ivo Graham. That was recently added. Josh Pugh, 25th of August, down to the last couple. Jacob Hawley sold out. Tom Gilby, the wine guy, 27th of August, last few tickets. Red Richardson just added Friday the 28th of August. And then in the coming weeks and months, you will find the likes of Ayawadi Bang Boyi, Blank Peng. Hang on, Buster. That's my kids. John Kearns, Joe Kent Walters, Chantel Nash, Harriet Kemsley, Work in Progress. It's not a tour preview, it's just for the tour. Friday, the 11th of September. For these and many more, please visit alwaysbecomedy.com/tickets. And in the meantime, here is the maestro, Tony Cantwell. Tell you what, Tony, right, straight off the bat. So I'm going to... Tim and I were pally with a couple of Scottish comedians, right? It's Kevin Bridges and Ian Sterling. Yes. And I've asked them both independently about when England play. You know, they both explained to me why they will root for the other team, right? And I, for what it's worth, I fully get it, right? So one of the reasons is here on British TV. This is a weird way to start, but I'm going with somewhere.
No. I was going to come in with commiserations, but please, yes.
So on British TV, what happens is, let's say it's Germany versus Italy, right? In a previous World Cup, and at half time, imagine if I live in Glasgow, I'm Glaswegian, and at half time, instead of analysing the match, they will go, and Sally caught up with England camp this week, and all of Scotland, quite rightly, are like, what? And so that plays a part in them, imagine that over the years, So I fully get it. Mm-hmm. So last night, I WhatsApped Ian Sterling this week. Do I take it you're right now ironing your best Argentina shirt, right? Is it? And yeah, basically, yeah, he was, yeah. Is that the same with you? Where were you last night? I take it. Where would you stand?
So look, I lived in London for 10 years. I have a lot of very close English friends. My sister-in-law is English. I have nieces and nephews that speak with an English accent. But when a couple of comedians who were gigging in town in Dublin sent me videos of literally the pubs just like throwing their pints in the air with every Argentina goal and actual rebel songs being played. It is a beautiful hatred, and I'm sorry, it is a beautiful hatred, that we have, but look, I'm somewhat of an empath, and sometimes I can look past the colonial history to see how sad my good friends are when something like this happens. But no, look, it is tough. I was asked on radio because I think Starmer had, as a last gasp, was floating the idea of a bank holiday if England were to win, and I said, do you know what? I actually think that Ireland should get a bank holiday if England lose. Which got a good response. But I know
that's a great joke. Come on, Tony. That's a 10 out of 10 gag.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. But no, look, it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, I mean, it did literally. It was just like each goal. Like, yeah, actually,
sure.
Interesting story. Like, my cousin's fiance was. We were watching. I think it might have just been like a Euros match, and I don't remember what team it was. Hungary, maybe. Was there a Hungary match where England had lost? But we were watching, and for some reason, everyone was glued to it. And she's like, why is everyone glued to this match? It's England-Hungary. You were in Ireland, And she was sitting down having her pizza. and then Hungary scored, and she didn't look, and the place just went electric, and she, just completely ignorant to the whole thing, just brought her head up. Oh, England have scored, methinks, and she looked around, and she was like, she just got it. Then it was like, oh, I get it now.
Light bulb.
So
Ping.
That was a tough conversation.
Also, it's different with, and Tim, I must say, he's very Irish. So you're singing to the, whereas I'll hold my hands up. I've got a horrible feeling that if I was to trace my family tree, it's I'd say chillingly English.
Sure.
But I also fully appreciate without getting too heavy that Ireland have you've got all the more reason. For example, in England, where I was raised, all the history classes. And here's another example where England are once again the good guys, right? So I've grown up always believing that England are... Also, I'm 48, so maybe things were taught differently in the 80s and 90s. And then I watched The Wind... This is so heavy, I'm so sorry. What a first impression. But I watched The Wind That Shakes... I think The Wind That Shakes the Barley, it genuinely is the first time in my life where I've watched a film and gone, oh... Are we not always the good guys? And so that, yeah. It was the Mitchell and Webb thing. Are we the baddies? Yeah. That film was such an eye opener for me. Sort of like, why does not every Irish person fully adore every English person and then watch that film? Oh, sorry,
I know. So when you were watching like Braveheart and you saw Longshanks, where you're like, seems like a reasonable dude. I'm waiting a couple of years until The Wind That Shakes the Barley. This guy seems pretty reasonable. Throws his gay son lover out of a window, and trouble with Scotland is it's full of Scots. Yeah, all right. So we're the goodies. This Wallace guy's a bit mean. It was only Wind That Shakes the Barley.
In Braveheart, 3 cheers for the English,
Yeah.
God, this William Wallace has got a chip on his shoulder. What's all that about?
Yeah, but I mean, it's tough for you guys because it's like, God.
That was great.
You don't want to have to have like history class being like, oh, here we go again. What else did we do? Churchill though, surely he's done nothing wrong. Sure, I mean, at least we can leave.
But again, to make my point, a mate of mine works in Kenya. This is so heavy. Because again, we've been friends since secondary school, so she same age as me, and again was very much in the same history class. Sat next to each other for a lot of these classes, and then she goes to Kenya and finds out some of the things that had happened there at the hands of the, and again she had that same sort of, oh God, I thought we were the good anyway. So. I suppose what I'm getting in a roundabout way is congratulations on the football last night.
Thank you so much. That's very big. I appreciate that. But I love going. I lived in London for a long time, and I like to frequently, smoke a bit of weed and walk around the British Museum. And I remember walking around and like obviously it's everything is. I mean, you go downstairs and literally the English have stolen the whole just front of a Greek building, just the whole front of it. Like there's a Greek building with 3 walls because the English have stolen the entrance. And then you just go in and you see some of like the Aboriginal stuff, and it's like this shield was donated by a chief to Captain Cook on one of his voyages. And you look closely, and it has 4 bullet holes in it. I'm like, that was very, very, very nicely donated.
Caked in blood. Oh, what is such a generous donation.
The chief was like, you know what, mate, we don't really want this one. It's got full of holes, Like, you can have this one.
Tony, this is proving oddly cathartic from last night. So I thank you.
Well, do you know what? The Argentinians, like, I text my friend Killian straight away, and I was like, because he's German, and I was like, do give my best to all of your family who moved to Argentina post-war. I'm sure it's a big victory for the Germans today. Look, there's no. I mean, apart from the Irish, there's no history where there isn't some kind of dodgy colonial misdealings going on. But look, thank you very much for the congratulations and commiserations. I'm big enough to say that to you. So you got very close.
This is such an English thing. I'm going to say, I'm coming across like I'm going to vote for reform. I'm talking about England that much. I'm not alone in this. I know a lot of fellow England football fans. We had Tony, this is dangerous. We had the feeling. We've got a feeling that we're going to win the we might not win the final, but we've got a feeling we're going to win the semi, as if that was like, as if that meant anything whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you like the lotto, you got to be in it to win it. It could have been you this time, but I actually thought you guys. I mean, I've watched, because I do a lot of very close English friends, some of which have kind of denounced their Englishisms, while living here, and apart from, of course, the national squad. And so I've watched a lot of the England games, and it was a proper team. Like, it really was a proper team with no egos and a lot more patience than I've ever seen from an English squad. And I really thought the final was on the cards, But to be honest, had a final been on the cards and you lost on the Sunday, there would have been a bank holiday in Ireland. Like, there would have. So, yeah. But anyway,
in fact, I mean, that would have been. There must be a part of you, not just you, but some people would be like, "Oh, that would have been even better. To lose in the final would have been so much sweeter." But I mean, losing the semi is not too bad. But Tony, may I just say, I must veer us towards the Edinburgh show. The
Sure.
quotes that you've got. Look, you've been a brilliant stand-up for many a year. But when you get the lovely quotes, it does help, doesn't it? And the quotes you've got. Tim and I talk a lot about Graham Norton and what a phenomenal champion of comedy he is. I mean, the guy's just an absolute mensch, isn't he?
Oh my God! Like, I mean, I couldn't. And he's so clued in. So, like, I met him because I did the last one, Laughing Ireland show. And he very, very sweetly said that my performance as a latex-wearing stripper cat squirting milk from my 6 teats onto the likes of Aisling B and Jason Byrne and Deirdre O'Kane, he said it was one of the funniest things he'd ever seen, and I was like, oh, I mean, immediately, because, as comedians, it's like, okay, high ranking, that's the quote. I'm taking that. I'm going to be lashing that quote on there. But he's just afterwards, he was like just talking to me, and he was like, that is just such a great, he goes to the Edinburgh Fringe every year. He goes for like a long time. He tries to check out a lot of shows. He plugs a lot of shows, small shows. Like, he really is a proper mentor and chaperone of comedians. So even knowing it's him, and he is, like, in person, like, genuinely the funniest and wittiest and quickest person I have ever met. You think because of the size of his production team and his writers that there's maybe someone in his ear or whatever giving him. He is just like, he could be doing stadium shows if he wanted to. He's that quick. He could do a stadium show of just crowd work. But when I met him in person, I was like, oh, he is perfectly suited for, like, get as much eyes as possible on a couch and just let him go. He is like perfection exactly in the role that he's in. But yeah, he was so nice to say that. And then he was even on with one of the ITV shows and was talking about the show and mentioned me by name, and he's like, get to episode 3, there's a comedian in there called Tony Cantwell, and he does one of the funniest things. And I'm like, like,
amazing.
Yeah, so it was great to get that as a quote from him.
I mean, Tim and I, we say it a lot on the pod. We think he's the greatest chat show host in history, and I include. I'm a big Letterman guy. I think in terms of interviewing, he blows Letterman out of the water. He probably even edges, say, Johnny Carson. He's what he does with the guests that he has and the things that he gets out of them. Everyone feels involved. He's a very special. I think in the history of entertainment, Graham Norton is a very special person.
100%, and even what he does with, like, the Eurovision, like, he's a fan, God. But also is he like, I remember Terry Wogan used to do it, and it's so amazing, just, I mean, like, ole, 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 with all the Irish who have been, providing the UK with Eurovision coverage over the years. But Terry Wogan seemed to just hate it, like, towards the end. You could literally hear in the mic the clink of his whiskey glass and the ice. You could hear the ice because he's like, oh no, look at the absolute state of this guy now. And he's like, I can't tell if it's a woman, if it's a man, but oh my God, are they beautiful? Like, he's just, but like, so. Graham Norton is just such a fan. Like he's such a fan. But on the
God.
chat show, it's amazing what he's able to do to like he just says things are boring to like some of the biggest celebrities in the world, and they're never offended. They never go in on themselves, and he's able just to probe more out of them. And I can't think of any host that could be like, oh, this seems, and it's hard to make celebrities that big seem human. But like he is, what an asset he is to make people resemble a human. You know,
Yeah. Also, never makes it about himself.
never. Yeah.
Because a lot of chat show hosts they'll crowbar an anecdote about themselves, but he doesn't. He's such a selfless guy, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. And like my wife met him, at the end of the show, and then we went out for drinks, and we're like, no way, he's showing up to this. He's too big. He's there all night.
Oh my
He's telling
gosh.
stories and stuff, giving us gossip and everything. Remembered my wife's name. Like she went into full like, oh, I'm just gonna have to introduce myself again. And he was like, Terry, come on, and I'm like, that was even bigger than the quote.
Can I just say that if someone in comedy remembers my wife's name, that counts for everything.
I know. I mean, and I'm awful with it. I'm like, who's this?
Mate.
like, we were out last weekend. We had, remember the double date? I don't know. I don't remember this one. Who's this one? Who's this new one you're dragging around? Oh, your hair's down this time. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Charlotte. I'm awful with it.
I could do with a clipboard with full description next to each name. It's.
Well, do you know what? That's why they're pushing this whole thing. Like Meta, the most beloved company in the world, revealed recently that the technology on their new glasses to recognize people's faces is not going to be turned on. It has no intention of being turned on. We don't know why. They literally said, like, we don't know why this heavily coded piece of technology just happens to be in there, But that's what they're going to be trying to sell it on, this idea that you can always remember people's faces and names, And like, is that why we want to get into a nanny state? Just so we don't have the awkward kind of like, I don't want to say John. So we'll just totally give over. We'll be wearing fucking, cages with rats in them in like 2 weeks' time because we're too awkward to be like, it couldn't be Paul, is it?
Was it Marjorie? Margaret. It was Margaret. Oh, I should have ticked that box for the Meta glasses.
Yeah, people just walking around with the Meta glasses, like shamelessly. It's so mad. People are like, oh yeah, look at my cool new glasses. I can just film it something if I wanted to. It's absolutely crazy.
So true.
I mean, as someone with glasses, and I tell my kids all the time, because sometimes I might grab my glasses and I'm like, nope. And I get immediately, nope, that's not something you can do, because oh my God, I'd be so mad if I ever saw them take glasses off like another kid in school or something like that, some sort of joke or whatever, But I will say, when it comes to Meta glasses, like, punch those nerds in the face and make all Meta glasses be just that piece of, painter's tape in the middle, like, hey, you want to play stickball? Those 1950s kids, like, they need to be smashed. They all need to be smashed. We do not condone this. This is bullshit.
Tony, please talk us through the show. Hang on, I'm gonna do my middle-aged thing. Yeah, you cry weird. Sometimes I've memorized the show, or I know the show, and then get it slightly wrong, like in the way that someone in their 40s, add an extra word that wasn't in there. Please talk us through You Cry Weird. Also, may I just say that the photography that goes with this, what a shoot that is.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I went professional. I'm very kind of DIY, and I like to do things myself, and I always just assume that I can just figure stuff out, but I wanted to best foot forward. I've got the seal of approval from Graham Norton. I want to be doing my best. But yeah, no, you cry weird. So I haven't done like the Edinburgh Fringe in like 7 years, because I did it like 7 years ago, but I was so fresh, because I'm one of those who was like a comedian who was doing comedy, but then did sketches. But like I was doing open mics, and I was really bad at it. And then the sketches caught on, and people wanted, to see me. And off the back of that, I'm like, okay, well these people who like me, and a lot of people probably are coming to me, seeing me, who have never even been to live comedy before, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm killing. Oh, this was all I needed. It was just the right people coming to see my gigs. And then I did my first Edinburgh Fringe like 7, 8 years ago, and it was okay. I got laughs, but it was that big reality check of like, oh, this is what it is, and a good worker doesn't blame their tools, and a good comedian doesn't fully blame the audience. And that was a big reality check. So kind of since then, I was like, oh, like I need like jokes. Like, a sketch is great because you can be like, do you ever get the way blank dot dot dot, or you could literally have a sketch called do you remember when, and then just it's a montage of 90s nostalgia, and that's considered a joke or whatever. So
I can't believe some of those sketches. I cannot believe some of them are literally, who remembers wham bars or whatever, and I'm waiting for there's going to be a punchline. Who remembers that fudge bars used to be bigger than they are now? No, the payoffs come in, and then it's the end of the sketch. You're like, fuck my boots.
I know.
But then I'm the idiot because it's like 75,000 likes.
I know.
It's what it is.
I don't know if that still means you're the idiot.
No, I didn't mean
No,
that. I'm being a fucking snob, is what I'm really saying.
No, there's evidence of 75,000 idiots who think, well,
yeah,
that's and to not even have, remember wham bars, and then you open it and for it to be like bop or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, wake me up. Something.
Come on, give us
something.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, do you know what's so frustrating about that now is that sketch of like, remember fudge bars used to be bigger than they are, is probably a stolen sketch, word for word. So shit sketches are now being stolen by other people in its entirety. And I find that as well, that some people of that ilk, I've seen people similarly go big online and they start doing stand-up, and they're kind of like doing other people's jokes, or they're quoting kind of like throwaway lines that they got from The Simpsons or stuff like that. And it's really blurred the,
to the listener, I'm nodding so much. I'm not going quiet because I'm shocked.
Straight into the microphone,
I am not.
James,
I am
so that we get the
Tony, mate. I am. The two of us right now. The Venn diagram is a perfect circle. 100%. But I would.
You'll go, please.
If I can give you a compliment, if you've only seen Tony's sketches, look. If you're buying a ticket off the back of the sketches, fantastic. But if you've only done the sketches, you are not doing the full Tony Cantwell experience justice. There you go.
Thank you very much. No, I do appreciate that. But it was a hard kind of. It wasn't hard. I mean, it's a very charmed life of mine. But it's work. It isn't just like you get the crowd and that's it. And a lot of my peers have had a similar thing where they were doing some comedy and then a sketch took off, and it's a very vulnerable thing to kind of be figuring things out for an audience who think you already have it all figured out. It's kind of it's their confidence and belief in you to lose and not to gain. And so I've since then I've just been ticking away at it, and gigging as much as I can and getting up in rooms of people who don't know me at all, and then allowing myself to kind of take bigger chances and telling stories, and just realizing that it isn't just a funny word at the end. It is actual jokes, and then the other thing as well is just realizing that in that time, as long as you compile everything that you've been thinking and writing, that you might not have had that voice at the time for that bit, or it might not have fit in, or maybe that whole story you had was just one really good line. When you realize, then you have this whole 7-8 years of these kind of stories and experiences. Although in this case it was just kind of literally something. With this show, it was just something weird that kind of happened. But you kind of build this thing. But with this show, it's kind of like it's kind of what's happened to me since getting an amazing quote from Graham Norton. Because in the year that Last One Laughing Ireland came out, and I also got a sitcom for the national broadcaster RTE that I wrote and I starred in, and I was like, this is amazing, and I was like on cloud nine. And then it was coming down to Christmas, and my friend moved into this new house, and we went exploring around his attic. We found this old treadmill, right? And I got on this treadmill, and I kind of grew up a chubby kid, and I was like reluctant to get on it, but we were all daring each other to run on this treadmill, and then it came my turn. And like I'm genuinely like I don't do any kind of sport. Like I've even refused to do like a five-a-side tournament for my brother-in-law's stag do, and I was like, no, no way. And like he was like, please, like if you don't play, Tony, there's only 9 people, and I still held to my guns and kind of ruined the only good thing he wanted to do. But I ran on this treadmill, and I felt like, it was so weird that I actually could run on it because it was so at odds with what I thought I could do. And I burst into tears in front of all of my lad friends, like 15 lads in an attic. And I didn't know if it was pride or sadness, but it was just such overwhelm that even though everything was going well in terms of the career side of things, I was like, I need to go to therapy over this, because that was just complete overwhelm with, like I didn't cry for any of the other things. I didn't cry with the pride of whatever of getting the show or, getting the sitcom or anything like that. But this was just so at odds with who I thought I was, like deep down outside of all the, the career stuff. And so that's how, the introduction of the show, and then kind of diving deep into all the weird times in my life that I've cried, not for the reasons you would expect, and kind of diving into that through therapy. But like it sounds, it might sound heavy, but it's just funny,
I think your impeccable appearance on this podcast so far alone is rubber stamp confirmation that this is a fucking funny show. So there's no worries there, Tony. But what? And I know we mustn't spoil the show, but what do you think? Is it because you found something out about yourself that you weren't expecting? Is that the reason for the emotion, you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, in therapy, it was getting to a point where, and you'll hear it in the show, I'm kind of just, I feel like I've just listed off, like with this therapist, like 20 different kind of weird things that I've done that I've cried about. And so I go into this therapy session at one stage, and I'm like, look, I don't see how any of this is kind of like, connected. Like I don't, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, but I've had that with therapists. Like I've been to previous therapists before because I feel like I've told them too much, and now I'm kind of getting the ick off them in general. They have now become, the kind of the person with all of my weirdness that just reminds me of that, and I've kind of bowed out. But this therapist was very kind of frank with me and was like, well, basically, Tony, you seem to get very overwhelmed when your idea of yourself, good or bad, is confronted with a harsh reality. And this was the clincher, right? She goes, because I don't think you know who you are, because who you are seems to be entirely dependent on who you become to make the person in front of you like you. And I was like, oh. So I said, you're so smart and beautiful. I love you so much. So at that kind of point, I'm like, all right, well, and she said an interesting thing to me, which isn't in the show, which was like, she was like, if money or if, public approval wasn't a factor, what would you do? What would you like to do? And I'm like, ooh, I mean, money aside, the public approval thing is kind of like, that's my whole, or was, my whole thing. It's like, how do I chameleon myself into making the person in front of me who I view now as at a higher status kind of like me, And so it's about kind of figuring that out, and fundamentally finding out that I'm very boring, but I kind of do like that.
I'm going to give you a compliment. It's not one you're expecting. The clip recently that you shared, and this reflects so well on you as a human being, where they've booked the wrong Cantwell on the podcast. And the way I sound like my mum, the sort of thing my mum would say. I'm going to go full Hillary Gill. I thought you came across really well. Because that is so what my mum would say. But you really did, because Tim and I could name oh, fuck me, 100 comedians who would have
Mm.
had a shit fit, and you did it with such charm and such a smile. Please talk us through that, because that was fucking wild.
It was wild. So like, okay, so a bit of backstory to this would be that so like I've been a comedian now for, you know, like, 12, no, no, probably 14 years.
Sorry,
And
also very successful. You know what I mean? Like,
thank you.
really successful.
Thank you.
You know,
Yeah,
not just the
you know,
longevity, but the hits that go with
I'd
it. You
be
know,
I'd be established enough, right? And my older brother, who I've always said is funnier than me, like in the last 5 years, has put out extremely funny. Andy Cantwell is his name, and a lot of your listeners have probably seen him because he does hilarious kind of sketches of like re-edits of the overlap, where he's like the awkward guy in the conversation. He was doing videos of Martin Tyler overdubbing over, his resentment towards Liverpool's success and all that. And actually, his first ever post on TikTok, his first ever post when he had like 7 followers, his first ever was got 4 million views, and it's it literally did better than any video I'd ever done in my whole life. Was his first ever. So he has had
which one was his
monumental
first ever?
success. Say again.
Which one was his first ever that did that? Because that must be some
first
sort of
ever-
record. Was it a Martin
His
Tyler?
first ever was, yeah, it was him kind of basically lip syncing over and like just
It's this,
being
isn't it?
Yeah, just frustrated lip syncing over kind of Liverpool coverage. I think it was like Liverpool had scored for a third time. I think it was Martin Tyler. I'm not a big football head, which comes in important later on in this story. He's kind of like, oh, and another one for Liverpool. But like,
Yeah.
Andy's doing the face of just like, and
That's
he's amazing at it. He's a brilliant kind of facial actor. And so I got a call to be like, do you want to come on this, daily, live on live TV in Ireland, World Cup recap show called Up All Night. And so I'm like, I went down to Cork, which is a long drive, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm on here, but like whatever, I'll take it. And I go in there, and I'm talking about the match. It was like, Paraguay or whatever, and I'd learned, because I know nothing about football, a lot of facts about Paraguay. I was just listing off, and I was like, do you know they actually live above probably the biggest freshwater reserve? It's nothing to do with it, at all. And I'm like, Paraguay actually once went to war with 3 of their neighboring states about 150 years ago, decimated the male population. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the match. Anyway, the producer comes in on the ad break and he's like, well, they probably don't know who Tony is. Could you maybe shine a light on who he is, just so we can kind of, because we've gone straight into the football, in quotes, chat. So they come back from the chat, and I'm sitting there, and the guy's like, Dominic is his name, from Young Offenders, and he's like, well, Tony, look, I don't think there's any person who has combined the worlds of comedy. My heart's beating in my chest because I love compliments. The worlds of comedy and football. And I'm like, okay. And because I love compliments so much, I said, thank you very much. All right. I'm like, this doesn't seem like me. And he's like, we just love your sketches here, particularly the overlap videos that you do, where you kind of put yourself in as the awkward guy on the overlap. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, thank you. And I literally was like, thank you so much for that. And then I was like, well, how am I going to do this? And I said, so look, that would actually be, that would be my brother, Andy Cantwell. That would be, and then, and they were like, different guy. I'm like, yeah, that'll be a different guy. And they were just looking at me in stunned silence. And I'm like, do I keep talking here? And I'm like, yeah, so I actually, to be honest, thought it was a bit weird that when I was sitting here, I was like, do you know who would actually be better suited for this podcast? Would be my comedian, football loving brother, Andy Cantwell. And but like, that's the thing, like I on that of kind of like wanting people to like me, I really was just like, thank you so much. But I am the complete wrong person to be sitting here. And then they tried to turn it into a thing where they were kind of like, oh, you've actually been the victim of a bit of a prank here, because we have a joke about Andy Townsend and Randy Townsend, and and your brother is Andy. And I was like, oh, yeah. egg on my face, I guess. You know?
Yeah. Also, guys, don't do that. Just own the moment.
God. Yeah, like 100%. You know. And to be honest, it was nice because, as I said, I have been doing comedy for a while, and he's gotten a lot of kind of, "Are you Tony Cantwell's brother?"
Yeah, sure.
You know, and so now it was nice to be. Not only are you Andy Cantwell's brother, but are you Andy Cantwell? Like on life, you know. So that was nice.
I know. At the time, it must have been awkward at the time. However, may I just say that I think the way that you deal with it and you show such humility, I think it's worked out. For what it's worth, I think it worked out really great.
I mean, me too. To be honest, because I kind of planned a holiday around. We were out in County Cork. We're up in Dublin, and so we were down there, and that was to kick off the trip to Cork. We were going to drive out west, So I kind of went back after, I'm sure you know what it's like when you kind of give the kids to your wife, to their mother, because you're doing your super fun job, and then the expectation is now, all right, now you lock in, okay, because now we've had to, and I was there the whole morning being like, when is it being uploaded? When is it being uploaded? I need that clip. I need the clip of them saying the wrong name, because to be honest, like my audience, give me the sweet clip, because my audience probably wouldn't have, I'm not synonymous with football. They might not have even known I was on the show, so it might have been a nothing, and I don't know if I would have gained, or bolstered ticket sales with my Paraguay facts. So it was good to have something from that at the end of the day.
I think because you even say at one point my football loving brothers. You actually make the point that I'm not the football. You fully own the moment, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and like I laugh with my brother as well, because like I love my brother so much. We've never fallen out about anything. We have the exact same sense of humor. We grew up watching Bottom and Rowan Atkinson Live was like our first like stand-up video, was just Rowan Atkinson doing his kind of one-man show and stuff. And so we have the exact same sense of humor and all that. And but so I'm so proud to see him doing so well in comedy and having a huge audience, and like the audience, having that broad appeal because of his kind of football, knowledge and everything, and sketches outside of football. But I also like hate it, and it also like his success, just like fucking, it's like with anything, it's like him getting the good pair of rollerblades for his birthday and me being sickeningly jealous. You know what I mean? That doesn't go away just because, he's 41 and I'm 38, so it's a weird kind of double-edged thing, but I was just happy to give him a plug.
I saw a Genesis documentary, and I think it's Mike Rutherford, They talk about Phil Collins' solo success in the 80s, and Mike Rutherford said something like, this is like now this a few years ago, but he's talking about what happened to Phil Collins in the 80s, and he said something like, yeah, I mean, when he did the solo stuff, I wished him well. I didn't want him to become the biggest person on the fucking planet, so that we've all... And he's like a nice, reasonable guy, but it's just a human moment of like, you want someone to do well, but Phil Collins obviously became this. Hang on, I'm not saying that your brother's Phil Collins, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I totally know what you mean. But also, did they not see that coming? The way Peter Gabriel already gone, and then their tunes started becoming, with respect to Genesis, good. I'm more of a Divisible Touch era of Genesis.
So am I. I prefer the 80s stuff to when like Gabriel's dressed as a tree. I know this is sacrilege. I know that, but you know what I mean. Peter Gabriel's put like a fucking moon on his head or whatever. I can't get into that stuff. Give me Invisible Touch all day long.
I'm yacht rock as well. Yeah, absolutely.
I am mate. The three of us on a yacht. We are yacht rock. Je suis yacht rock.
Yacht rock. 100%. I feel like Peter Gabriel though, because even Peter Gabriel's solo stuff isn't even that weird. Like I like Peter Gabriel. Like his album "So" is probably one of my favorite albums, ever. But like, I feel like Peter Gabriel was doing that thing of like, well, look, I don't want to properly like, break up with them or whatever. So I'm just going to be fucking weird, like you do in relationships. Hopefully they'll just get enough of me, Like I'm just going to dress up as a fucking tree, and hopefully my girlfriend will just, to break up with me.
Yeah, yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Come on, let's end this.
Yeah, but no,
please.
yacht rock all the way.
Right. Oh, I'm not enjoying this. Do invisible touch. Oh, that's not for another 10 years. Fucking hell.
Right, so we're going to do the format of the curating dream gig. Do you have any pre-gig rituals?
So I used to have a pre-gig ritual, which was kind of sulk and go in on myself for the whole day. And then when I had kids, they were like, no, no, you're not doing that. I walk to gigs if they're within an hour's walk. I like to walk to the whole gig, with my noise cancelling headphones on and nothing in it, just to allow myself just to kind of say some things or kind of just hear myself a little bit. So I sometimes pretend I'm on a phone call, and if there's a new bit, I like to kind of talk it out. So, but I like to walk to the gig.
Lovely, very nice.
Even if it's like an hour.
Great. Who would MC this dream gig?
Oh, okay. I think. I mean, look, if it's a dream gig, we've already talked about him. I mean, Graham Norton.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know what? He'd be too good. Some fucking stupid open mic who's never done comedy before. Some guy who probably just should have written this down and never said it out loud. Yeah. I want him.
Right. Norton's a perfect pick, isn't he? Because he's selfless. He's.
Yeah, he wouldn't upstage you, and you think he would get them going, and he would never tread on what you're doing. He would probably do some of the best crowd work you've ever seen in your life, and he would. I think you would get a good buy-in of big laughs just off the basis of wanting to keep him happy. I feel every act would get the first 5 minutes of just locked in, no matter where they are, because they want to keep him sweet. So he'd be a good one to have.
Great choice.
Who would open the gig?
Opening the gig. Do you know, I've a very kind of, I have a very kind of, I'm very lucky in that I just kind of gig with a lot of the same people. Dublin, there's a lot of comedians, but I think the best opener, performing, who people might not be familiar with, and I'll give them a shout. And I know this is a dream gig, but he's sensational. He's a Northern Irish comedian, Richie Bree. He's so unbelievably funny, and he's incredibly deadpan. And because of just how funny his jokes are and one-liners, he just will. He will just win over any. I've never seen him have a bad gig. He's probably the highest success rate of any comedian I've seen.
So he's a real one to what, to any comedy fan. He's really one to look out for then, Richie.
Yeah,
Bree.
Richie Bree is sensational, but he doesn't have a big. He's a rare breed of a comedian who really does not have a big ego. You know what I mean? And he's doing the kind of organic kind of growth kind of thing. He maybe could do a little bit much to have a bit more kind of awareness for people to see him, but he is, when you see him, he's sensational. So I would love to have him.
That's great pick.
That's great. Who would go on in the middle?
In the middle. So would it be a middle and then a break in this situation?
Middle break, but you pick whoever you like.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what? I think we'll throw in, because this is also just what I love. I adore Flight of the Conchords. I know they should probably be up higher. They're like a headline thing, but you don't want to follow a musical performance, but at least if it's before the break, I think they are just so unbelievably funny. And they definitely, for me, like, my first jokes and my first bits were musical songs off the back of just how unbelievable they are. And they're so, to have absolute bops that you listen to in your general music rotation because the songs are just good, and for them to make you laugh every single time, and just the silliness of it, Flight of Conchords would be amazing.
Their Pet Shop Boys spoof, is it Inner City Pressure? I mean, that's a
Inner City Pressure. It's
just
so good.
It's just a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder what the Pet
And
Shop
then
Boys think, because I'd like to think Neil Tennant heard that and was like, "That is brilliant."
it
Yeah, I
is
think
so
he'd be
good,
complimented by it. Yeah.
It's
but
like
it's
with the
ruined the Pet Shop Boys for me. Like, like it's
because it's so good.
like because I can't remember if it's Pet Shop Boys or Fly the Conchords, where it's
Yeah.
like, why, what, how much have you got? Like it is Pet Shop Boys, but that sounds really funny. Like, you know, you know, and then you're just stand there, like it's so funny, and their Bowie song was
Ridiculous.
ridiculous,
So good.
and then in the show, it's so funny where you've Jermaine Clement kind of hovering over Brett in a dream, and he's like, "I don't know what to do, David Bowie. I don't know how to do." And then Jermaine's like, "Get an eye patch, mate. Get an eye patch. What? Get an eye patch." That's his.
They were
that's
so
his
good, weren't they?
Yeah.
Have you seen them both on
Unbelievable.
their individual performances on Romesh's chat show? They come back to Hilary Gill. They come across so well.
Come across so good.
And who would close the mega gig?
Closing the mega gig. I mean, I don't, because I want to just think of who I absolutely adore and who my kind of influences are. I mean, I think Rowan Atkinson live is one of the funniest, but it's not right for this. So
But the thing is, though, that is a great show, and it is a good. I don't think we've ever had anyone pick Rowan. Maybe I'm wrong there.
I don't think we have, which is mad.
I don't think we have. The bit where Tony, if you've you obviously know that special. Are you the same as me? When if you knock on someone's door or you ring the doorbell, in your brain you're close to doing the different ways of looking when someone answers the door. It's. I mean, I was about to say the physical comedy is great. That's not a hot take that Rowan Atkinson's physical comedy is great, but that bit is brilliant, isn't it? Angus Deaton tells the story that he asked Rowan Atkinson if he could. Did he say something like if he could stop calling it his one-man show, or could he be incorporated into the title or something? And Atkinson said no, and that's why Deaton left, or something like that.
I mean, look, like obviously there's Simon and Garfunkel, there's Hall and Oates, but I think they were doing a little bit more than Deaton's doing, with respect, and
with all due respect.
Yeah,
sorry,
and his
Tony.
stern kind of element of it certainly adds to it, but I did like a sketch show for the Dublin Fringe like a couple of years ago. It was all kind of sketches, and it was kind of inspired by that Rowan Atkinson live special. And I was able to replace Deaton with, an MP3 that just played at the right times, So with respect, no, it's so varied, Atkinson opens it literally just addressing the new members of Hell who have just come in, and to stand there, and then my favorite of his is when he's a headmaster and he's just reading silly names.
Incredible.
And he's all like he's like reading the names out: Rigid, Bottom, Fist Up, and then he's like, Rigid, Fist Up, Bottom, out, and it's so funny. And the dating one is just, and I do think, and because I did love, I mentioned Rick Mail as well, but like it's a good thing that this isn't around anymore. But like we are missing the kind of, as a comedy trope, especially as a staple British comedy trope, the kind of harmless pervert, and like Rick Mail kind of did it to an extreme, but even Rowan Atkinson as the kind of dating person, just that kind of bumbling, I mean, nowadays that is kind of red flags for people, but and understandably so, and it's we need to say goodbye to it, but it was such a kind of funny just trope of just, this is the person who just really wants to get with the girl, and now it's creepy, and I completely understand it, but Rowan Atkinson was brilliant at doing that, and that kind of dating. These are the steps of dating, and he does an amazing bit where it's kind of like, this is the right way to accept the bill, and he's like real calm, like, yeah, great, And then this is the wrong way. And he looks at it and he's mouthing, what the fuck? I didn't eat that. You ate that. I didn't eat. No, you're paying for that. It's just so, and he does it all with his face. There's a reason why he is so unbelievably successful as like Mr. Bean, that, and obviously the language never comes into it, but like internationally, he's, I think he's underrated in his broad, like international comedy success. So yeah, that would be a fun gig. Richie Bree, the Flight of Conchords, and Rowan Atkinson would be the dream gig to see.
Is there an incident at this comedy gig that you would love to replicate?
Yeah, well, I will say, right. So, I mean, I don't know how. Maybe this could happen during the Flight of the Conchords bit, but there was at a gig recently. So, like, I do love kind of doing crowd work, but I think because of my ADD, like I often jump into like a really weird question that sometimes throws people off, because I genuinely do not care if you two guys are seeing each other or where you're from or what you do. Like I find those questions interesting in person, and I'm also shit at small talk. But there was one time at a gig where a guy just kind of like came in halfway through the set, was stomped down, and then sat in his seat. And I just was like, he made such a big noise, and I was like, "Where were you? What's going on?" And he goes, "I'm sorry, I had a phone call there, And he's like, he said like I tried to be nice and not take it in the room, and we had a bit of a laugh about that. But I was like, okay, come on, you're gonna have to tell us about the phone call. And he goes, well, like I get these phone calls once a day from my mate who's doing 15 years in prison. And I was like, oh, mwah. And it was just, I mean, it was like, I think that's probably the most, like, it was one of my tour gigs, but that's probably the thing that everyone's going to remember, because we found out everything about it. There was a guy, he had tried to smuggle hash, into the country in a briefcase. And I was like, and okay, break me down. Like, what was in the briefcase? And we're spitballing in the crowd things he could have done to kind of hide the hash, and we're getting a great laugh. And it's like, all right, now you tell us what he did. And he goes, no, it was just in the bottom of the briefcase. It was just was the briefcase. If you opened it without a lock, it was just a sheet of hash. So that was just beautiful. Like, so as a, can I ask you, what was the phone call about? Never in my wildest dreams could I have gotten a better answer. So that I would love to see that level of ammo for crowd work replicated, because I often don't get there on my own.
That's so great.
That is so great. Is there an incident that must not happen at this gig?
Well, there was one time where I was about to do a gig, and I was in the downstairs bar, and this proper Dublin girl was at the bar, and she was like, what kind of drinks do you have? And the bartender was like, oh, we got this and this, and it was a Coors Light or something like that, and we got this. And she goes, Coors Light's fucking shy. Coors Light's fucking shy. And I was at the bar as well. She's like, do you like Coors Light? And I was all like, do you know what? Like, it goes down easy. And then she went up right to my face, and she's like, are you a comedian? Are you gigging tonight? And I was like, yeah, no, I am. I'm going to sit up at the front and make your life hell, is literally what she said to me. And she was so true to her word, like, but she wasn't so drunk. She was so funny, and it fucking pissed me off so much, because she absolutely decimated me. And like, she was like, she was coming in with the punchlines before I had them. She was calling out bits. She was like, yeah, that never happened, bullshit, and she absolutely totaled the gig, to the point where, and of course you never want to do this as a comedian, I was like, please stop. Like, I was like, can I use the magic word of please don't do this, and like, she won, like, and I lost big time.
Hang on, again, I'm going to sound like a parent here. Could security not have removed her?
They could have, but the audience were loving it. Like, it's almost like,
sure.
What I mean? When you can see the power shift, and the mantle is, and because everyone's laughing, it's like, all right, who do we serve here? The comedian who's gone white is a fucking sheet, or the fucking, the big swinging dick in the front row.
Sure.
So I wouldn't want to see that happen again, because,
oh God,
this is a perfectly curated night, and I don't want to see it upended.
it's just impossible as well, isn't it? I remember Phil Jupiter telling a story. He had a tour show on the South Coast, and a guy, all gig, heckle, puts it down, heckle, puts it down, goes on for the whole night. And then Phil said that the guy came over at the end of the show, walked up to the stage, and was like this, as in, put it there, partner in comedy. And Phil's like, no, you ruined the whole night for everyone. But whereas the crowd would have said that she was enhancing the night, I'm guessing. That's why it was so impossible.
I mean, yeah, but like I had nothing to go with, and I'm not mean. Like, I mean,
Sure, yeah.
I think there's a new like there's fight or flight, and then there's a new one which is fawn, and I'm like a fawn. Like if I'm getting heckled, I go into like being super nice, kind of like, here is my belly, like here is my bare belly, and love me or whatever. So like I'm so bad at like being mean or saying the right kind of mean thing to just be like the perfectly. Some people are so good at it that it's just so succinctly beautiful put down that it could be the meanest thing in the world, but if it's sharp, that you just get away with it, and that's not my kind of vibe. I mean, I'm getting better at just being inquisitive as to what's wrong with you to do this, like from a compassionate point of view. What happened today? Did something?
Sure.
Who hurt you?
Who hurt you? Yeah.
Why do you hurt me, Michael? It's like, yeah.
Right, that won't happen.
It won't happen. Final question: how do you unwind after a gig?
So it used to be just a rake of pints. Like I would have downed a pint from leaving the stage, because I don't drink. Maybe if it's kind of just a fun gig, I'm there with my friends, and it's kind of like, and it's late or whatever. I might have one before, but very seldom any more than that. So like, I used to be like, I would just neck a pint like from leaving the stage to like going to the green room. It would be gone. I'd have drank it that fast, and then I would just be so. And it ended up kind of shaping how I thought the gig went, and I was never able to kind of take any lessons from it afterwards. So that's how it used to be. Now what I do is, it's kind of an understanding now that me and my wife go to bed at the same time, and we try and do that as much as we can. But when I come in, it's kind of like my adrenaline's going here, and I'm not on the pints, so I will watch like a 90s thriller or like 80s action movie in its entirety, kind of like get out my phone, write down a couple of notes, and then go to bed too late, but at least I've done a little bit of reflection while watching just Steven Seagal or what is it in the Patrick Swayze one where he rips the guy's heart out, or rips his throat out in
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse, yeah. Like I might put on Roadhouse or something like that and half watch. So and it's kind of an understanding that my wife's like, yeah, he's just gonna be, he might wake me up when he gets in, but he needs this. So that's how I unwind, is watching people have their throats ripped out and writing little notes on my phone.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Very quick tangent. Have you ever seen the Roadhouse remake? I think legally I'll be careful here, but have you seen the interviews with Conor McGregor where he, shall we say, is struggling to sit still?
Oh my God.
I have seen that. And
my God.
This is not my joke. It's a joke of very funny comedian Kevin McGahern, where he kind of points out that he's like, well done to the casting director in finding in basically casting Conor McGregor, of all people, to play a coke-fueled sex pest. That's genius. Where did they get the idea for that? But also, I felt was missing. There's like there's that great line in the original Roadhouse where like the baddie says the most insane line to Patrick Swayze. He's like, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. And it's like, that is the toughest and weirdest, like, intimidating line ever. It's like, I fucking love you. But, I'll fuck you up. It's it's the toughest gay line I've ever heard in my whole, like, it's amazing. And so it was missing a lot of that in all this like super stylized kind of choreo fighting, just throwing a couple of lines like that and you're kind of golden. Yeah.
Superb. Tony, we wish you all the luck in Edinburgh. Tony Cantwell, You Cry Weird, Jersey Underbelly, Bristow Square, 17th to the 30th of August at 10 p.m. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I've had such a great time.
Huge and heartfelt thanks to Tony Cantwell. Timo, my favourite memory has to be him talking us through the podcast appearance when they booked the wrong guest.
Phenomenal. That's so great. For me, it is, you might notice on video, he had lots of like film posters behind him. So in that famous wee break, we talked about films. It was a very nice time. There we go. That's mine.
He's a nice guy. Also, yes, if you're like me, you're of a certain age. Look, guys, sometimes I've just got a wee. When you're younger, you've got a cast iron bladder, and then you get to a certain age, and what happens is, this is too much information. We do the chatty bit of the pod. I have to go for a wee, and then we come back and do the format. That's how it works.
Oh yeah. So no harm in that.
Look, I average 37 wees a day. Totally normal stuff. We will see you at a show soon. God bless us all. Thank you very much as always. Take care. Lots of love. Bye, 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 bye.